If you ask me, the Capital One Venture X is the best bang for your buck travel credit card, and it's mine of choice. This card is paid for international flights, giving me access to lounges around the world, and has overall just given me a more premium travel experience. So today, I'll dissect the card's benefits and drawbacks, and also go over how you can best use your Capital One miles for travel. Hey everyone, Kwaku here, and welcome to my award lab, where I teach you the science of miles and points. Big favor as we dive in, like and subscribe for more. It does help me out with the algorithm. So, starting out with the card's annual fee, it is $3.95, which might seem a bit high at first, but it's actually pretty reasonable compared to competitors. The Chase Sapphire Reserve is currently $7.95. The MX Platinum is $6.95, but may increase this fall with this rumored refresh. And the all-new C Strata Elite card's $5.95. Additionally, and unlike those other credit cards, it is really easy to offset that annual fee compared to other competitors that have a ton of credits. So, to offset the annual fee, you first get a $300 travel credit every year that can be used on things like flights, hotels, and rental cars, all within Capital One's travel portal. You also get 10,000 bonus miles each account anniversary. Now, those 10,000 miles are worth about $100 at 1 cent per point, but later on in this video, we'll go through some examples of how you can get even better value out of those points. Also, Capital One refers to their points currency as miles, so if I use the term points and miles in this video interchangeably, they mean the same thing. So taking the travel credit and adding it to those bonus miles, you're at about $400 in value, so right at the annual fee essentially. As of filming, you can get a sign-up bonus of 75,000 miles after spending $4,000 in your first 3 months, which isn't bad at all. At 1 cent per point, those miles are worth about $7.50 towards travel, but again, we'll talk through how you can get even more value out of that later on in this video. You also get a credit for global entry or TSA PreCheck. Remember that global entry includes PreCheck, so go for global entry if you can. So as you can see, it's really easy to get positive value out of this card in year 1 and beyond, and that's why for me, it's a keeper card in my wallet. This card's really a no-brainer if you have at least $300 in airline, hotel, and rental car expenses every single year. You can also add up to 4 authorized users for free, which you can't get from competitors. So now looking at the card's spending multipliers, you get 5x miles per dollar on flights and 10x on hotels and rental cars, all booked through Capital One Travel. I know for some people, booking through a portal is a bit of a red flag, but in my experience, Capital One's has been fine overall. In general, sometimes flights and hotels can cost more inside portals compared to booking directly with the hotel chain or the airline, but Capital One does price match, which is nice. As an example, the one time I found a flight that was more expensive inside the portal, I booked the flight through the portal anyways, then called Capital One and said, hey, I found the same flight number, same date, same time, for a bit cheaper directly with the airline. The rep then confirmed that that exact same flight was cheaper directly with the airline, and I got back the difference as a travel credit. You can also set price alerts, so if there's a flight that you're eyeing, you can set an alert for it, and if the price drops, then Capital One will send you an email. One multiplier that's not talked about a lot is access to Capital One Entertainment, and you get 5x on any ticket or experience booked through here. You can find tickets to concerts and shows, like Ticketmaster kind of, but also access to Capital One events. These come and go and can be hard to get, but there are some real gems on there if you can get them. For example, a few months ago, I went to this Broadway opener, booked through Capital One, and it also included brunch, the show itself, and then a cool after party where we got to meet members of the cast, but also other actors and actresses that went to the show. Pretty cool experience that came with tote bags that we could take home, and also these glasses. Now, access to Capital One Entertainment isn't a Venture X exclusive. You can get access with other Capital One cards like the Saver, but the fact that you get access to experiences like these for a card that pays for itself is pretty nice. The last multiplier, and arguably the card's superpower, is 2x miles on all purchases. So if you're the type that doesn't like having multiple credit cards in your wallet, and you hate having to remember like which credit card to use when, then this is a really good catch-all option. It's nice that you get this catch-all without having to add another credit card to your setup. Now, if you don't mind having multiple credit cards in your wallet and getting the max amount of points from your spend, you could pair this card with a Capital One Saver in what's called the Capital One Duo. The Saver earns 3% cash back on dining, groceries, entertainment like movies and tourist attractions, and also on streaming like Hulu and Netflix. And you can convert the cashback earned on the Saver into more powerful Capital One miles. So you're effectively getting 3x back on that spend. And as of filming, you can get a $200 sign-up bonus after you spend $500 on the card in your first 3 months of card ownership. Not bad for a no annual fee card, and that's effectively getting 20,000 miles. The Saver also gets 8x back on Capital One Entertainment, which actually beats the Venture X's 5x. So now, let's talk through more of the Venture X's benefits, including lounge access, which has been a hot topic lately. As of filming, Capital One has 5 lounges at Las Vegas, Denver, Dallas-Fort Worth, IAD, and DC, and a brand new one at New York JFK. I live in New York and flew out of JFK recently, and it's a pretty decent space. Good food, good atmosphere, and yeah, just a nice space to relax before my flight. Definitely get the pork and pea risotto if you go. It was really good. Some lounges even have fitness rooms, shower suites, and workspaces. Capital One also has what they call a Capital One landing at DCA in DC, and one more coming to New York LaGuardia. These are more focused on the dining experience. So compared to Amex and Chase, Capital One's footprint isn't as strong and have some work to do to catch up, but still not bad in my opinion. If you do frequent any of these airports, it is nice to have the perk. You also get access to Priority Pass, but in my experience, these lounges can be kind of hit or miss. Some lounges, in my experience, have really good food options, decent drinks, and a good space to relax, while others might have poor food options and long waits. One thing to note as well is you do get one free visit to any US Chase lounge in the calendar year with your Priority Pass subscription. Now, as of filming, primary card holders and authorized users can bring up to 2 guests into Capital One lounges and Priority Pass lounges, and 1 guest into Capital One landings, but this is all changing in February 2026. Starting then, only primary card holders will keep lounge access for themselves. Authorized user cards will have to pay a $125 fee in order to keep lounge access. Free guest access is also going away for both primary card holders and authorized users. Starting in February, you'll have to pay a fee to bring guests into both Capital One lounges and Priority Pass lounges. This can be a bit annoying, but I can see why they did it in an attempt to curb overcrowding. But if you often fly with your player too, then I can see how this could be annoying. If that's you, it could be worth it to get them their own VentureX card if you can reasonably use one more travel credit, or do the math and determine if spending $125 to keep lounge access as an authorized user is worth it for the number of visits that you plan on making that year. However, if you spend 75 grand on the card in a calendar year, then you can earn back those guest privileges for the rest of the calendar year and also for the entirety of the next year. VentureX also does offer various trip protections. One is cell phone protection, so if you do pay your phone bill with your VentureX, you can be reimbursed for costs if your phone is lost or damaged. You also get primary rental car coverage, which means you can decline the rental car company's collision damage waiver. You also get trip cancellation, trip delay, and trip interruption coverages, as well as lost or damaged luggage protection for trips booked with your VentureX. Down below the like and subscribe buttons, I'll link a NerdWallet article that breaks down these trip and rental car protections. But as always, do your own research and read the fine print, as this is not insurance advice. The card also comes with a bunch of miscellaneous perks. One is complimentary Hertz President Circle status, which gives you perks like a dedicated call line, choose your own vehicle, and guaranteed upgrades. So if you rent cars a lot, these can definitely come in handy. You also get a complimentary subscription to Prior, which is a high-end luxury travel service that curates bespoke and off-the-beaten-path travel experiences, itineraries, and insider access worldwide. One more benefit is access to the Premier and Lifestyle collections, which are Capital One's curated list of hotels and vacation rentals. This can unlock perks like room upgrades, experience credits, early and late checkout, among others. I'd imagine it's very hotel dependent, so your mileage may vary, but at least some hotels might have these. One more thing is access to Capital One Dining, which gives you access to exclusive reservations set aside for Capital One card members. In my experience, these have included things like a free appetizer or free dessert, so not a bad perk to have. One more thing too, at Capital One cafes, you get half off all handcrafted drinks if you're paying with the Capital One or Discover card. It's not a bad perk and also a decent space to get some work done if there's one near you. The VentureX also has no foreign transaction fees, which is good when you're abroad, and your miles don't expire for the lifetime of the account. So we've gone through all these perks. Now let's talk about how to redeem your hard-earned Capital One miles. The first way is via a statement credit, but doing this, you're only locking in half a cent per point. So 10,000 Capital One miles is only worth $50 here. So definitely don't do this. It's not a good use of your miles. You can also redeem your points for gift cards, but this also often doesn't even yield 1 cent per point, so not a good use of your miles either. You can also use what's called the travel eraser and essentially redeem recent travel expenses at 1 cent per point, which isn't bad if you value simplicity, but again, still not the best way to use your points. To get the best value out of your miles, it's typically best practice to transfer your miles to Capital One's transfer partners. Capital One has a list of these partners where you can send your miles to. So for example, 1,000 Capital One miles can turn into 1,000 Air Canada Aeroplan miles. Down below the like and subscribe buttons, I'll link a transfer partner sheet that details what other partners Capital One has, as well as what partners other major banks have, so you can compare for yourself. The upside to booking this way, as opposed to in the portals, you can often find really good deals on award flights from the airlines directly. Here's one example that I did earlier this year when I flew from Okinawa to Hong Kong via Taipei on EVA Air in short-haul business class. Looking at our blackboard here, the total cost for that one-way flight was $549. However, I was able to find the exact same flight through Avianca for around 23,000 miles. Now, because EVA Air and Avianca are both Star Alliance members, I was able to book this Eva Air flight through Avianca. And because Avianca is one of Capital One's transfer partners, I was able to transfer 23,000 Capital One miles into 23,000 Avianca Life miles. So looking at our blackboard here to do a quick cent per point calculation, taking the cash rate of the flight and then subtracting any tax and fees that I paid, it was around $50, then dividing by the miles that we transferred, multiplying by 100, we get 2.2 cents per point, which is a pretty good deal. My target for international business travel is typically 2 cents per point, so 2.2 is definitely good. It's also way better value than if we book this flight in the Capital One portal or if we cash out our points for a statement credit. Now, doing another example, I am eyeing flights for a potential trip to Costa Rica in February, and one way to get there is via Air Canada business class. Now, when I search for award space, I tend to look at one-way fares as a seat might be available on your outbound flight, but on your inbound flight. But when doing our calculations, it can be smart to factor in the round-trip cost of the flight, just so our numbers aren't that inflated. So one way for this date in February is 50,000 points and around $54 US in taxes and fees. Round-trip fares are right at $2,400, so if we divide that by 2 and then subtract taxes and fees and divide by the number of points, we get 2.29 cents per point, which is also a pretty good deal in my opinion. And for a domestic example, unfortunately, Capital One's only domestic partner is JetBlue, and the ratio is pretty terrible at only 5-3. So 1,000 Capital One miles turns into 600 JetBlue TrueBlue points. With other issuers, you'd probably have an easier time booking domestic flights like Delta and Amex, or Chase has United and Southwest, and then Citi now has American. But you can often find domestic US flights through some of the partners that Capital One transfers to. You can often find American flights through Qantas, and here's an example going from Philadelphia to Los Angeles. So looking at this flight here for these dates in September, we can see it'll cost us $513 cash round trip. But looking at the Qantas site, we can see one way is only 18,000 points. So if we take our round trip price and divide it in half, then subtract any taxes and fees, and divide by the number of points that we need, we get around 1.4 cents per point. Normally, I target 1.5 for domestic US flights, but 1.4 definitely isn't bad. Also, if you're wondering why I used 18,000 and not the true points price, is you have to transfer your miles in certain increments. In this case, 1,000 to 1,000. So I have to transfer 18,000 in total in order to make this flight work. Some airlines have different ratios, like JetBlue's 5-3, but usually it's 1,000 to 1,000. Up to you, but you can also factor in the opportunity cost of taking a different airline. And if you reasonably fly Frontier in this case, then you can definitely use the price of the Frontier flight during your cent per point calculation. Now, award deals like these aren't always available, and airlines don't always have access to seats on their partner airlines, but using award search tools can help. So down below the like and subscribe buttons, I'll link a few that I've used in the past to help with my searching. And also, as a rule of thumb, the best award deals are normally found right at calendar open, so around 300 to 360 days before travel, or within 14 days of departure, so it's good to be flexible. That being said, good award deals can definitely be found outside of those time frames. It'd be smart to set alerts on some of those award search tools, or just check every morning as part of your morning routine. Now, on the hotel side, Capital One's partners here aren't as strong, in my opinion, as, say, Amex and Hilton or Chase and Hyatt, but you can find some decent deals through Wyndham. So here's an example from the Grand Palladium in Jamaica, which looks like a pretty nice all-inclusive to me. So looking at the price for 5 nights in August, we can see it would cost us $2,185.30, but it would only cost us 3,000 points per night. So heading back now to our blackboard to do our cent per point calculation, if we take the total cost for the hotel stay and divide by the total number of points that we need for all 5 nights, we get a redemption value of 1.46 cents per point, which is honestly really good for a hotel stay. You can also use your Capital One miles to book certain Vacasa rentals through Wyndham. That being said, it is a bit of a complicated process. You have to call in to book, and not all Vacasa rentals are bookable with points, but it is an option if you prefer vacation rentals over hotels. So there's an overview of what I think is the best bang for your buck travel credit card. With manual fees easy to justify, powerful miles, and really good perks, I think this card appeals to both light and heavy travelers alike. If you want to apply for this card, I'll leave my affiliate link down below the like and subscribe buttons in the description. If you made it this far in the video, leave a plain emoji and I'll try to like it and respond. Let us know down below if you're going to go for this card, and if you already have it, what you like about it. Ask any questions down below too. Once again, thank you all for joining me in my award lab. My name is Kwaku, and I'll see you all in the next one.